All right, perfect. All right, I would just wanted to say thank you for joining us. We're obviously here to dive a little bit into Examsoft. I want to thank Dave for joining us, our new Examsoft administrator, with Dawn no longer in that role. So Dave is your go-to for Examsoft questions, not only you, but for students as well. If we have inquiries there. We kind of started off our last session with just a little bit of a conversation of how this is obviously a little bit different than what we've been doing prior, and acknowledging the fact that Dave in his role is new to that role. So as you're working with colleagues and you're getting tests ready and you're getting test dates ready and all that stuff, knowing that the person that is steering the ship is new to being a captain of said particular ship. Obviously, he's perfectly capable of doing so, but having a understanding that we do have someone new in a very important role, given that we're all online and everyone's doing testing this way, a very important role for our students to succeed. That we understand that. So we kind of like we reiterated in our other session, really want to if we have questions or understandings of things, I really want to lean heavily on our colleagues and the people that have been in the system and have used Examsoft and are familiar with some of it. Obviously, we have a couple of those across the faculty enrollment, but then also we have some brand new users, right? We have people who might just be brand new to coordinating a course, or we have people that are brand new to Widener who have never done any of this. We're kind of all over the place. So when we're talking here today, we're going to look at some of those things, to kind of get you started, those things that need to be done in the beginning of the semester, as far as getting student information to Dave, and getting that information to him in a timely manner. And then we'll look a little bit at how to create questions. There is a Word template that Examsoft provides that, if you want to create a bulk load of questions, those can be created in Word. And I'll show you where to get that resource and how to do that. And then Dave's going to jump on and jump into Examsoft a little bit and show you how to, just manually add questions. And when we think of manually add questions, we're thinking of a couple questions. So we've kind of already established like a threshold of 10. If you're thinking that you want to add more than 10 questions, then, we encourage you to use some kind of import, whether that's the Word document or an import from a publisher or a resource or something like that. But if you are doing just just adding a couple questions or going in and revising the questions that are there, we'll look at how to do that stuff in the Examsoft platform today, and talk a little bit about setup, as far as organization goes in that platform, how there's maybe a little bit of flexibility with that, and how that stuff can be laid out. So we'll look at that as well. So just because it's a small group, obviously, if you have questions as we're going along, or we had great participation in the first session. If there's something that you want to add, or you do it a different way, or you found another way to do it, or a different way to think about it, please add that feedback in these sessions, because even though it's just the 5 of us here, there will be other people viewing the video. And like I said, those people might be brand new to the system or might be thinking about it in a brand new way. So hearing what their colleagues are doing, or hearing what their colleagues have identified as best practices for themselves, can only help in them understanding and helping everyone becoming a little bit more independent and self-reliant inside of the Examsoft platform. All right, and then obviously you're welcome to use the chat too. If you want to type, that's perfectly fine too. So if there's nothing to start, I'm going to jump in and start right off the bat in Canvas and show you how to get your student information out of Canvas so that we can get it to Dave and he can get those users inside of Examsoft. So not only can they participate in mock exams in the beginning of the semester, but start participating in the exams that will be held, obviously, for your own courses. Okay, so I'm going to share here. Share, perfect. I almost hit the end, and then we would really been in trouble because my meeting would have stopped, but I only hit share. That's good. All right, so here we are on the front page of Canvas. At the beginning of the semester, or I should say at the end of the semester, everyone is wiped out of Examsoft. So essentially everyone goes in as a new user, right? So what we need to do at the beginning of semesters is get the information that that comes with a course and get that information out to Dave so that those users can be put in Examsoft, not only as users for Examsoft, but contact information so that when those emails go out about reminders to download, those things are sent to the right places and those kind of communications. So we want to make sure that that stuff gets out. So I'm just going to go to a course. Here, I'll go down here to one of my fall courses. And when you're going to grab this information, because we're talking about people, student numbers, email addresses, one would think that you would go to the people tab inside of your Canvas course to get that, but there is unfortunately no way to export this amount of information on here. And the workaround is not to take a screenshot of this page and send that forward. What we need is a working document that can be imported into Excel, and a screenshot would just be a picture of it. That doesn't help us. So what we need is we need to grab this information so that it can be given out to the Examsoft platform. And believe it or not, we're going to go in and get that from where our grades are. So we're going to click on the grade book. Okay. And inside of the gradebook, what we're going to do is we're going to export the gradebook. And the export the gradebook would be a great feature for if you want to do your gradebook manually, or if you're checking calculations or something like that, you have this feature. But here we're just exporting the gradebook so that we can pull our student information. Okay. You'll see in our export when we do this that so class form, do we need to let Dave know he's eligible for extra time? Yes, both very good questions to start, Mary Frances. The class is not forwarded from one year to the next, so we're starting with a blank slate. So there, at the end of our summer semester here, I think we said the 18th, Dave, right, is our last day for testing. That's when we're wiping the system of all users and building anew.
Yeah, and then the fall starts shortly after that, so I really need, it doesn't give me a lot of time to put everyone in, so I need that information as soon as you guys can possibly get it to me.
Perfect. And then yes, on top of that, Mary Frances' other question was, do we need to let Dave know who is eligible for extra time? Yes. You should be forwarding the things that are sent to you from disabilities, whether they came directly from disabilities, they came from the student, they came from Rose, but that document that has Rebecca Ross's signature on the bottom that talks about accommodations can be forwarded, or you can just type out in an email, these 3 students need time and a half. But either one of those things, yes, that information does need to be given to him so he can tell the system to give that person extra time. Okay, great questions to start. Thank you, Mary Frances. Appreciate that. So here we are in the gradebook. I'm going to come up, and this used to be over here in the right-hand corner for settings. So those of us that did this last year, you would be looking for your import export over here on the right, but they moved it. So it's no longer over here on the right on the Canvas page. It's actually here under Actions, which is just your 3rd tab above the gradebook here. And then we have an export from this function. Okay, when we export this file, it's going to give us a download window just like we get for any other file. Okay, so right off the bat, we can open with Excel. You'll notice that it's giving you a CSV file, a comma spaced values. And what we need to do here is we need to change that. So that's the first thing we're going to do right off the bat. The thing with a CSV file is it doesn't hold formatting. So if we go in here and we make changes to this document, it's not going to hold what we've done. And we don't need to supply Dave with all of this information that you see here. We're going to clean this up a little bit. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is come up here and do File, Save As. And for myself, because I'm working right off the bat, I'm just going to put it right on my desktop, but you're welcome to save it wherever you want to. That's all on you. This is an important part down here at the bottom in your Save As window. You'll see it's still as your CSV file. We want to hit this and move this to an Excel workbook. Okay, and then that way, anything that we do on this page will be saved the same way you would save an Excel document. Okay, when I save this as an Excel workbook, you then have the opportunity to name it. And we've said that when you do name it, we would like you to include your name, your last name, your section or your course. In this case, it's my N302, and then your section. If you're section A or your section 01 or your section 02, currently, obviously include that information as well. Okay, so just a nice description of what we're looking at inside of that file. I'm just saving. It's asking me if I want to replace because I already did that already, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, so now I have the ability to go in and clean this up. You can see that I have everything here that was in my grade book. So I don't need all of these scores. I'm going to hold at the top of all of my letters and drag over to where my final one is and right click and delete. So I got rid of all of that. I don't need a points possible row. So I'm going to delete my points possible row. No reason for that to be there. And I want to make this a little bit easier for myself to view. So I'm going to double click for my Excel tips and tricks. If we remember that professional development, we talked about that a little bit. Double click at the top of your column here where your line is for A, and that will automatically jump to the longest length of that column. So you get an automatic width there. Same thing for your user IDs. Double click, double click, double click. So all the way across, I'm evenly spaced for as much room as we need. The only other thing we need to delete here is this other ID number. Okay, you have two ID numbers here. The one we need, that's our Widener ID, and they are in Examsoft by that ID number. So we do need that ID number. What we don't need is this other 4 or 5 digit number that's associated with their Canvas ID. So we're going to delete this B column. Okay, we don't need that Canvas ID. Okay. So right now you're almost ready to go. We have the student's name, we have their Widener ID, we have the beginning part of their email address, and then we have a column with the course that they're in. The only other thing that we've discussed that we need to add here is it's much easier for Dave on his side is that instead of this just only being the beginning of an email address, it is an actual whole email address because the system's looking for who to send it to. The system doesn't know that we end in @widener.edu. Okay, so what we need to do here is put the @widener.edu. There is a way to take the @widener.edu and marry it with the column next to it, but it's about 5 or 6 steps. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to include that information inside of the follow-up email. So if you want to go through those steps to put the widener.edu after every one, that's fine. Or you can always just take your copy and paste here and go to your usernames and paste the widener.edu after each one of those. Okay. But we are asking that you do that because if you don't do that, he has to do that. So it's just one more step. We realize that if you're in a very large section, that might be a little cumbersome, but it certainly makes it a little bit easier when you're working with your group and he's working with the whole of everyone else. One other thing here, if you highlight these, you'll see that they're in blue. Like I can click on it and send it an email. Examsoft doesn't like it that way. So if we right click, we just want to hit remove hyperlinks. So that way that blue part's gone. It's just in there as a text field and it's no longer what we would consider hot. You can't click on it. It doesn't go anywhere. So we want to remove those hyperlinks. So it's just their username and then @widener.edu at the end of it. Does that make sense for everyone? Dave, do you have anything you want to add there? Did I catch everything there?
Oh, you're doing perfect. That's everything.
All right, perfect. All right, fabulous. If no one has any other questions on that topic, I'm going to jump over to an Examsoft resource that gives us an opportunity to bulk load some questions. Okay.
And then the final step is just to save that and send it to Dave.
Absolutely. So all we're doing here is we're just saving again, right? Because I already named this correctly up at the top. That was the first thing I did. So once that's saved and it's on my desktop, I can then come over, to my email window here and do my new email, construct to Dave, and we call him Dave, but his real name's David. So be careful when you're typing it out. You're looking for Dave, but it is going to be under David. So it is David E. Brown when you're coming up. And then, of course, as you send them a couple, that'll populate in your address book, no problem. But for those first couple correspondence, make sure you have the correct email address, especially when we're sending out student information. Here in Outlook, great feature up at the top, I can just do attach a file and click from there. If it's not there, then you just have to browse to the correct place where you save it and attach it the same way you would anything else to an email document. But yes, you're correct. That would be your last step after modifying, making the Excel document, getting the layout and stuff the way you wanted it, adding the @widener.edu to our users, saving your final copy, and sending it off to Dave so that he can import that into the Examsoft system. Perfect. All right, fabulous. Like I said, I'm going to jump out of there and jump into some Examsoft resources, starting with kind of bulk loading questions that could be created. We'll see how to do that inside of a Word document. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with where to get these resources. Those resources sleep inside of the SON group, where we kind of go for all of our technology information and anything else that we need as far as faculty members. And then inside of our instructional technology page. And again, a reminder for those of you that are watching, and for those of you that are attending, I will send a follow-up email with all of this information in it and all of these links, so you're not like, oh, where did I find that? Where did he click? Everything will be there for you, so that anytime you're looking for something, you just search, for that Examsoft email, and those resources are there for you. I'm trying to do a much better job of, I shouldn't say a much better job, a more conscious job of creating one-stop shops for you guys, because I know we have so much to do, and there's so much things going on that, when you're ready for it, then that way it's there for you. So I will follow up with that. Okay, so inside of our instructional technology resources, I'm scrolling down to our testing resources section. And inside of that, you have the Examsoft information, obviously our support number here in case you would need to reach out if we're unable to do something on our side. Our testing information folder, which is just, stuff about protocol and things like that. And then this is the Examsoft resource here for to get into Word and be able to bulk load some questions. So that's where I'm going to go. And this takes me out to an Examsoft page and gives me an overview of bulk loading Examsoft questions in RTF format. Now, don't let the RTF scare you. It just stands for rich text. It's not anything that you're not used to dealing with. It's just a different way of saving a file. Okay, we're used to saving our documents that we work with in Word as .doc or .docx, and that's what we normally see after our file name. So here, Examsoft doesn't work with those .docs or .docx. They work with .rtf. So when it comes to working with this, the only thing we're doing is changing the way it saves. But you're still working in a Word document. It's still the Word platform. So as far as typing, moving around, going down a line, going to the next page, tabbing over, all of those things are still exactly the same. So it's nothing new. It's just we're saving in a little bit of a different way. Okay, so you can see here to start on the page that it's just an overview of how some of these questions can be created. Some reminders that, this is just an import of only text. We can't take images and put those kind of things in here. So this is a place that, where we just have a question and answers underneath. In this case, multiple choice, true or false, multiple answer, an essay, or a fill in a blank. And then it really kind of goes over how to put each one of those inside of, a rich text document. In this case, the best way to describe it is, you setting it up numerically. In this case, you can see the multiple choice is set up with the number 1. And the only thing we're doing different here is putting an asterisk next to the correct answer so that the system knows where the correct answer is. Okay. Now, there are other things that we obviously include on our text or on our tests. Some people have, some of their questions set up a little bit differently in different folders and different file structures. And we'll see that a little bit when Dave jumps into Examsoft. So when we look at the rich text document, it gives you the opportunity to put some of that information in there as far as the rationales and the different folders and things. So when you first look at it, it's like, wow, there's a lot here. But know that the system is just looking at those different pieces of that document and pulling that information into the correct places it needs to go in Examsoft. So it's really about differentiating in the document what you need to look at and what is concerning to you. The other stuff we can just delete and get rid of. Okay, so let's take a look at that document. We're going to go down to the very bottom of this page. And there's a link here that we can download the RTF question file. Okay, so the same way we did with our Excel and Examsoft, all we're doing here is we're downloading a file. So we're going to click here. And it's going to ask, do you want to open Word? Yes, of course I want to open Word. That's perfectly fine. Okay, it's going to open Word for me. Dun, 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 hopefully. I'll do it myself. No problem. All right. Now, obviously, in here, we're going to make some changes. So make sure you click Enable Editing up at the top so you can make changes to this document. Okay. Now, what you're given here is an example of what Examsoft is providing. So obviously, you need to take the information that's here and make it your own. All right. But this is a document that could be given to say, okay, here's the test I want to give on, it looks like an American history test, right? So this is a complete test. Now, keep in mind, again, that the only time that you would have to utilize this document and this template per se is if you're trying to bulk load questions into Examsoft. For the most part, a lot of us work on the rollover method. We're using questions from prior tests. We're using questions that are already in the system. We might be going in and making a couple changes, maybe getting rid of some questions, adding a couple. We're going to look how to do that too. But here, what we're looking at is if you have 10 plus questions that you would like to add to Examsoft, this would be the template in the document that you need to utilize in order to format those 10 questions to get in. Okay, and then those 10 questions are sent off to Dave, and then Dave puts those questions into the system on an import side. All right, but here, this is just you on your side, designing the questions, setting up the page so that they're correctly put in. I'm going to zoom in here so we can just concentrate on one facet of this, because like I said, there's a lot here. Okay, I'm going to highlight here. This is just question number 1 up at the top. We've had some conversations before in the other session about the information that is included under folder and category. For the most part, when the questions are imported, you can take those questions and move them around into the different folders and categories that you might have as a user. So we don't need this information up here at the top of you importing questions. Okay, so we just start with the number 1, right? And the number 1 is the first question. Here's your question stem up here at the top. And then, of course, the answer choices that go along with it. And then your asterisk next to the correct answer. Okay. What is important to know, and we talked about this a little bit inside of the other session because we had some other users who have used this before and set this up, is that when you are doing the rationale for a question, if you're providing students extra feedback on what they're choosing, the rationale is here with the little squiggly line. Okay, that is the key above your tab key in the top left-hand corner of your keyboard. below the escape key. So not top left, but the top left of the group of the rest of the keys, that's your squiggly line there. So it's important to know that formatting is very important here. If that line is just a hyphen, or you don't include the asterisk, or there's extra spaces or an extra tab over or something somewhere, those are the kind of things that aren't going to import correctly. So it's really important to kind of stick to the script, and that's why they provide you here with this file to kind of give you a layout, and of course just kind of allows you to copy and paste what you want to put in and out there. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions on that? All right, fabulous, pretty straightforward. Has anybody used this file before or imported questions into Examsoft using this method?
The only way I've ever put the questions is to type them individually.
Into Examsoft itself?
Right, where you're making a test. And you're right, like we do use the rollover method a lot. So maybe you're just going to alter or add a few questions. So it's hard to find a bulk source of nursing questions that you would use.
Right. Well, I know that, if and we did talk about that, the rollover fact, and a lot of people use that. If you're, adapting a new textbook and you have new publisher resources, something like that, we know that those of you that have used, some of the Elsevier stuff and stuff like that, that does come with Examview or Diploma or another program that you're using.
Yeah.
And you're right, Mary Frances, I would be very hesitant to, grab a set of questions that just comes in a Word document from anyone, because chances are that, that Word document is other places and they
Yeah.
probably have access to that resource. So, but certainly if, you're teaching a new concept or something changes inside of our standards or inside of our curriculum and we need, a set of 20 questions on a brand new topic, or, practice changes somehow. I know that stuff, the standards of practice are changing on a particular topic and we need to modify. But you're right, a lot of people do just go into the Examsoft side and might just add them individually, or they just do the rollover and they change some of the answer choices, or
Yeah.
modify the question stem, or stuff like that. Yeah, that's good. And we'll look at how to do that too, so that those of you who haven't done that before, we can see how to do that. But this is the way to, if you have a set of questions that maybe you're typing up, or you're working with a colleague on developing, or, maybe you saw in another resource and you're just bringing them in and we need a way to import them. This would be the way to do that inside of Word, of course, saving as your RTF file. Right? It's important to know that if you're starting from scratch and you don't start with this template from Examsoft, which is perfectly fine, maybe you're just using it as a reference, that if you just start a new document inside of Word and say blank document, this is saving as a .docx. So when you go to save and you're going to import inside of Examsoft, we need to change this .docx. Do we even have the RTF in here? Yes, we do. RTF right there. So almost 6 from the bottom there if you're starting from scratch. So there's your RTF. Okay, so same way we did with our Canvas file for our student info, we had to change that from a CSV to an Excel document. Here, if you're starting from scratch, we have to change from Word to RTF. And look at that, guys. You guys are just gaining technical knowledge all day. Look at all these file paths you're dealing with. That's awesome stuff. All right. If there's no questions there, I'm going to hand the mic over to Dave so that he can jump into Examsoft, talk a little bit about the structure of Examsoft and how it looks, and the file structure, and then anything else question-wise and stuff that he's going to go over, we'll give our attention to him, and I will stop share for him. Thank you, sir.
All right, just give me a second here. All right. Okay, so we're just gonna go over a little bit about how to just type in questions, which Mary Frances, you just said that you already familiar with.
Yeah, I just go up to the create a multiple choice and
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
no, and just you know, type in a question, or I have the stem of something and I just modify it, or
Okay, yeah, I mean that's the most convenient way to do it. That's we're gonna find that's what we're gonna be doing most of the time because, like you guys said, there's not gonna be a lot of times where we're bulk loading a lot of questions. So the way we want to keep it, if it's under 10 questions, we want you guys to just do that, type your questions in. If it's 10 or more, we want it in the format that Andrew was showing you guys to send to me, and then I'll bulk load the questions in. So we found a pretty much easier way to upload these questions. If you go into your folders, sorry, clicking the wrong thing for a second. All right, so the way that when you create up here, the way to keep it in the folder that you want it in. So like if you want to go into, say this is your folder, fall 2018, you just click on this little setting icon and go to create new question. And then it gives you the choice of what kind you want to do, which mostly we do the multiple choice ones. And then it'll bring you to the next screen. Just this way, if you do it this way, that way you know your question is going into the correct folder. So you say you're already in what folder you'd want to be in. And you can type your title to your question here, type in your question along here. Now, the difference with doing it this way than formatting in the Microsoft Word is you can just select a box for which one is the correct answer.
if I could just add, Dave, that you can really help yourself if you give an accurate title. Like instead of just saying cardiac question, Jahan and I have started, this is a heart failure question, or this is a hypertension question. So then when you're looking at your questions as to which ones to add, you already have a clue. It's very helpful if you give yourself an accurate title.
That's great information. If you have any other information like that you want to throw out, feel free to jump in.
And if you don't put anything there, it just takes the first few words, patient in the ER, and it gives it a title.
Okay. But that's really good information.
Dave, one thing, I have to leave soon for an appointment. I just have a question before I leave.
Yeah.
I'm pretty comfortable with everything else. Are we generating our own password? Is that something you're gonna teach us today?
Well, everyone will get the regular password of welcome, and then you can go in and change your password if you want.
No. You know, when you do the test, not the password, excuse me, the code for the test. Are you
I've been generating them.
You are generating them? Okay,
Yeah.
so it's the same system as with Dawn.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. I want to keep everything as close to how Dawn did things, just because that's the way I was also trained. So I want to keep everything the way we've been doing it with Dawn so that we transition a lot easier. I want to do everything the way Dawn's been doing it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, then just back to the question. We want to keep the weight as 1. You can do partial credit if you want. It gives you, doing a question this way gives you more options of what you want to do right in front of you to make it a little easier. If you do the rationale, you have that option also. And then, let me move everyone's faces. You can save and approve right here. And then, like I said, then you're already in your folder. Then you're pretty much, you're done. It's much easier this way. Like I said, this is for 10 and under questions. 10 or more, put in a Word document that Andrew explained and send that to me and I'll upload them.
The other thing we were able to utilize when we gave a math test was Dawn was able to drag in like a label of a pharmaceutical bottle in here that it said 5 milligrams per 1 ml, that they could read the actual label. And then up here we said open the label, and then they could answer the questions about how much they would give. Or we could say Mr. Wilson needed 10 milligrams, how many mLs it was, and they had to read the label correctly.
this option here where it says attachments, it allows you to do that, to put a picture like that. You'd have to get the picture yourself,
Yeah.
save it, and then bring it into here. So yeah, you there's that option as well. Is there any other information you give us? I'm not as familiar with doing these questions like as Dawn was. Obviously, Dawn has been doing it for years. I personally haven't even had to work with putting in questions like this yet. So I know how to do it. I just, I'm not going to be as quick as Dawn and familiar as Dawn was with everything. So just, I'm going to need a little more time to do things than Dawn did. But
Yeah,
that's all.
timeliness is certainly important. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. If any information, especially changes of exams, changes dates, times, anything, I would need that information as soon as you can get it to me. So I have more time with it because, like I said, I'm not as quick as Dawn was. I'll get there. It's just going to take a little while. And like I said, in this transition time, that's why I want to try and keep everything exactly how Dawn did it, so that way we're all comfortable moving on.
Sounds good, Dave.
All right.
That's perfect. Dave, do you want to talk a little bit about the folders on the front end, or?
Oh yeah, thank you. I know
Yeah.
I felt like I was missing something there.
No,
Yeah.
all good.
So yeah, like Andrew said, what the folders. I'm going to be handling the folders. So when you are sending me questions, I just need to know what folder. If you need a new folder, what you would like it called, and then I'll create the folder and I'll put it. If the folder already exists and you just want these questions into that folder, just let me know what folder you want it in. I'm going to be the only one handling the folders just to keep from confusion and basically from this thing becoming like a mess and then we can't find any of the questions anywhere. So that's going to be important information that I'll need is where you want the questions. If it's a new folder, you need it in a new folder, let me know what you want it called. I'll create it and it'll be all under your course that you're teaching. And that's another thing that I just made me think of. Any correspondence you have with me, like when you have to change an exam, stuff I was saying, please put the course that it's for and what you're teaching, because I still haven't correlated everyone with what the course they're teaching. So when someone just sends me an email saying I need to change my exam to next Thursday, I don't know exactly what exam you're talking about. And I have to go into an Examsoft and find which one you're teaching so I can have an idea what you were talking about. So just make things easier on me if you just tell me what course you're referring to.
Great point.
Does anyone have any questions about the folders? I feel like most people have been using the folders there. Like I said, I just need to know which ones you want your questions put into.
Perfect. All right, so I would think for the most part, getting the student information out to Dave in a timely manner is paramount to get stuff started. Like we said, we'll still do mock exams in the beginning of the semester because students have their exam ID, and we need to make sure that they have the correct lighting and that they're in a good place to do that and all that stuff. So there will be a mock exam before real tests get started, and we'll go from there. Obviously, if you want to dive a little bit deeper or you need a little bit better understanding of Examsoft, or today was a little bit too basic for you, you can always reach out and we can dive a little bit deeper on a more individual basis. But like I said, because we kind of have stakeholders all over the place, with some people using it for the first time, some might just be course coordinators for the first time, some are brand new to Widener. We really need to cover the stuff to get us up and running for the semester. And then of course the basics of adjusting or adding questions. One thing that we did want to talk about, and we said a couple times in the other duplicate training, is that if you find that you don't have access to something, whether that's some questions or some courses or whatever that might be inside of Examsoft, that all you need to do is reach out to Dave and he can give you access to those folders and those courses. We know that, faculty members might be in a new course, or, we have someone new coming aboard and they're just not in the system at all yet. So as soon as that information is developed to him, then he can give you rights to that information within the system, so you can see those correct folders as far as question banks and prior exams and things go. Is that correct, Dave?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. I want to share another thing real quick. It was a issue that, and it's not really a big an issue, but people I was giving permission to their courses, they weren't able to find questions. And also, like, when you look at, we'll just look at this for now. See how it has a 0 there, so they think that there's no questions there. But if you click on the icon and it drops down, there is a whole slew of questions. But you have to make sure to click on this little icon here, the plus icon. So it's a lot of people are looking, seeing, they're teaching 261, but they say there's no questions there. It just instructed them to go over, click the little icon, and now you see there's a whole slew of questions.
All right, good. So we just need to make sure we're expanding our lists.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Andrew. Something I wanted to bring up.
And I'll include that in the follow-up, because I don't think we said that in the first one, but I'm sure you probably are getting inquiries from people of where is this stuff, so that's good. No problem.
I do have a question. As you know, we're going to less testing. Each course is only going to have a midterm, a final, and then we're supposed to use ATI, and we're supposed to utilize like weekly pre and post quiz. Is there any easy way to take the question from Examsoft to Canvas for the pre and post quiz without just retyping them?
Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. We haven't had that one asked. I would have to look at the parameters that Canvas needs for that import and see if Examsoft lets us export in that same file version. So
Yeah.
I will follow up with that, and I will certainly include that information inside of the summary. But that might be a good feature. You're right, because we do have a lot of questions inside of there, and some people might want to utilize those for the stuff that's on Canvas now.
Right. My thought was just to utilize some of those questions for the pre and post quiz. Now, if it's multiple functions to do that, it's only 5 questions. So it might just be easier to retype them. Like, I don't, if it's too complicated, that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and it might not be too complicated, but it's all about how it comes over. So if it comes over and, you still have to spend 10, 15 minutes cleaning it up, putting in point values, moving stuff around, then maybe just typing out the 5 question is best. But I'll look into that. I think that's a good idea, and see if that, that's something that we can incorporate and give us another way to kind of pull some of that information. No problem.
Thanks.
Yeah. Great question. See, and that's why we have 2 sessions, because no one brought that up in the first one. So that's why we double our conversation. Yeah.
Pre and post quiz stage yet.
Yeah. Well, we talked about them.
Yeah.
But, and we talked about, the exporting a little bit, because we talked about the publisher resources and how to pull that stuff. But no one asked about, taking that stuff from Examsoft, because like you said, a lot of people have a whole bunch of questions in there, and pulling some of that out. So just another idea, another resource, another tool in the toolbox. So I like it.
And Dave, I'm going to tell you the 2 stumbling blocks after using Examsoft for a couple years is one, when you do have a math question. So they say the correct answer is 1 milliliter, but the student puts 1.0 milliliters, like it's the correct answer, or they put 1 and they don't put milliliter. There's a way to accept multiple responses with a math question. So people might come up with that, because you'll see that the scoring is unusual. So you might have to speak to the new people about that. And the other is when and we all do it a little bit differently, these where we're going to accept multiple answers, or the all that apply, when we have to accept them all, can mess up your scoring. There are 2 stumbling blocks you kind of got to navigate around.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. That's first time hearing about that, so I'll check that out. And one thing that's been great is that Dawn has been a good resource to me. If I have questions or need help with anything, she's been more than willing to help me out. because she knows that there was just a lot that she didn't get to show me before she stepped out. So yeah, when I come across those problems, she's been great for me to reach out to. So
And you
I'll
have
try
all
not
of
to do-
us too, Dave. We're willing to help.
yeah, I was gonna say because you brought up the math stuff. You may hear from me if I need some help with that.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
we all were in the clinical courses, we're supposed to give a math exam like the very first week of school, and in order to allow them to give medications at clinical.
Okay.
So that'll be your senior med surge, your junior med surge, and the N300 or whatever Kathy Evans teaches.
Okay.
So someone might want them to read the label, those kind of things.
All right, that's great. Thanks for the heads up. I appreciate that because I'm gonna need all the help I can get until
Yeah.
I get a lot more familiar with the program. I got it down enough to do what I need to do right now, but
Yeah.
like I said, there's gonna be a lot of other things coming up that it's gonna be a learning process for myself as well.
Most of us don't roar too loudly.
Yeah.
And I think you bring up a good point there as far as, like we said in the beginning, we have to be able to lean on each other in a
Yeah.
lot of these circumstances, when you're trying to create a specific type of question or you're trying to make sure scoring is correct,
Yeah.
reaching out to your colleagues and using them as a resource, in those conversations, can alleviate stress for you, which then in turn alleviates stress for the students as well. And we did say that in the first one. Kathy Evans was very helpful. Norma Jean was very helpful. Obviously, you have a lot of experience here. So, those people that are a little bit more on the novice side, we do have some faculty members that we can lean on as resources, and that's great. Perfect.
All right.
All right, guys. 10 minutes early today. That's awesome. I will send up a follow-up email with our information here, try to include some of that. And obviously, if you need anything or extra Examsoft stuff or anything else you need to talk about, please don't hesitate to reach out, and then we can go from there.
All right. Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great rest of the day.
All righty. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Perfect. I've been missing you.